Hey, welcome back to Manotick StringWorks. Got another video for you here this week. So a client of mine dropped off this Lefty Fender Stratocaster made in Mexico. It's a bit of a PartsCaster. It's pretty grungy, but it's got a really nice neck. Roasted, toasted maple neck. So let's see what we can do to this thing. So it is a Lefty guitar, so it's a little different than what I'm used to. Haven't seen one in a long time. Yeah, it's a bit, it's a little grungy, but it has potential. Have a closer look. So the bridge and saddles, there's some screws that are rusty. I'll have to lube and clean that up. Make sure we don't strip out any of those saddle screws. Got a nice Seymour Duncan pickup and bridge position. In that roasted maple neck, really nice. And the headstock looks great. Made in Mexico. It's even got flame maple all down the neck, so really nice. And there's a nice crack in the finish that the customer will deal with that. So we'll check the neck relief before we start anything on this guitar. It's a little too close. There we go. 3/16 hex key, T handle. Makes it easy to get in there. Start with 12 thousandths, that's where we like to be. This string action was a little bit all over the place. So you can see that's the high E, of course, and it's really, really high. Tighten that up a little bit, see if it works. And that definitely helped. So we know the truss rod works. Another little tweak. Again, I'm checking it on the treble side, not the bass side. I do check it on the bass side later on. Let's have a look at that string action. So 5/64. This slides right under everything. Yeah, so obviously the string action is too high. 6 still slides under, I think it slides under every string. Again, with lots of room, especially that treble. I think I know why. We'll see why that string was raised up higher later. There's a good shot of the bridge. So I really don't want to try and turn too much here in case anything is frozen in place or wants to strip out. So give this a shot of WD. Cross all the saddle screws. And then on the intonation screws at the back. A little toothbrush, not the one I use every night, but one in the shop here. And I don't know if you notice on the E and the A string, the springs are missing on those intonation screws, so we'll address those after. We'll get the strings off. That works a lot faster. I just cut the strings in the middle after I loosen the tension. And we'll flip the guitar on its side. And maybe I should take the back plate off. It's usually a little easier. Alright, there we go. Push those through. Instead of having strings flopping around all over the workbench or the guitar. Tighten up those tuning machines, a little loose. .10mm thin profile StewMac wrench. So I'm just checking the neck for straightness because it will be without strings for a little while, maybe a day or two. So I like to keep the neck straight while it's sitting around with a little tension on the truss rod. That's good. So we're back to the bridge. I put a spring on that E string. Now I'm going to put one on the A string. See all the crud under there? I was wiping that up as we went. And that's the wrong way. Spring on the inside. That's better. Just roughly put them back in the same spot that they were, so we'll check the intonation near the end. So the client has a new pickguard, a white one. He wanted me to change that out, so let's get this one off. This one's pretty used up. Lots of scratches. You'll see the holes have been enlarged. Yeah, it's a bit of a mess. So, good idea to get this one replaced. One of these little tools to pop off the volume and tone knobs. Sometimes they pull right off, but I like to use that tool just to make sure. We're just going to unscrew all the electronics, the pickups. Make sure we don't lose any of the washers or the nuts, of course, or any screws. That's why I put them all in a little tray. The tray's just off camera there. I definitely like to use a power driver wherever I can. Look at that. Yeah, that's quite the mess. Let's clean this thing up. I had a comment about Simple Green. And those of you who watch Dave's World of Fun Stuff would recognize Simple Green. It's at the grocery store here in Ottawa, so I bought it. Works great. Thanks, Dave. There's the new white pickguard. Looks good. Should fit exactly, so. Now I just have to take off the pickup screws and the little rubber gaskets. Be a little finicky. So I like to push them through all the way so that the rubber gaskets are touching the back of the pickguard. That way they don't fall out or the screws don't move around. There you go. So everything stays in place, and that's where they're supposed to be, so it works out. So this could be a little finicky sometimes. You know, you need maybe a third hand sometimes, but you get through it. Just don't mix up your pickups. Of course, we have one different than the other too, so it's a little easier. And generally the wiring won't allow you to put the neck pickup in the bridge position, so that's usually a good hint. So it's just the reverse process of taking everything out. Just make sure you put it all back in. And by keeping everything in one little tray, if there's anything left in that tray, you know you forgot something. So it's a good way to make sure you don't leave anything behind. So I like to give everything a little tighten to start everything and then get going. So put the screws in. I'll go around by hand usually and just tighten them by hand after I've used the driver. Three-way switch knob, which was white, not black, so matches nice. You can line up the volume and tone knobs. Some people get really finicky with these, some people don't care. Usually try and set it up so that the 10 is facing at you. And you're looking down at the guitar, and again this is a lefty guitar, so it's a little different, but so when you look down, if it's on 10, that should be full blast. Of course, if you have a volume knob that doesn't have numbers, it doesn't matter. So it's just a hand press fit. Don't have to go crazy. So I noticed that we're not going to be able to adjust the string height without dropping those saddles right down to the bottom of the bridge. So this neck is going to need a shim. Not hard to do with a bolt-on neck, of course. One of the nice things about working on a Fender style guitar. A little clean as well. Every little corner of this guitar is dirty. There's some markings. So 2008 for the body. The neck is marked 2015, so it's a little mishmash of parts. Looks good though. So we're about 25 thousandths. Little piece of maple veneer. Always try and use something like wood or a plastic, something that's not compressible, not paper. Paper will compress. If you put enough paper in there, obviously you'll keep the thickness you want, but you have to put a lot. Whereas just putting the right thickness of wood or plastic will make sure that you don't have to worry about that. So just clipping the corner so it fits in there. And this is always fun, this little game, holding the neck to the body, flip it around. I didn't show you, but I did flip it around. So those of you who get upset with power drivers, you'll notice that the clutch is set to 5, I think I added here. So as soon as it feels any resistance, it stops, right? So I'm not going to be driving these screws through anything. So I've got the bridge saddle sort of in a halfway position, and the straight edge is just touching the top of the saddle. So that's perfect. So we have adjustment up and down. And of course we're going to go up a little bit, right? Because this would be flush with the frets. So that means those little saddle screws are not going to be protruding out. They should be relatively flush by the time we're set up nicely. Fret erasers just give the frets a nice little clean, light polish. There was quite a bit of fret wear up on the first, second, third frets. And you'll notice some extreme fret wear, which I think was actually caused by somebody filing frets down. Not here, but we'll get to the 12th and 13th frets. There you go, you can see. So the 12th and the 13th. The 13th looks like someone took a file to it and just flattened it, you can see there. And it's so low that I really can't level all the frets to that. So either have to replace that fret and recrown it specifically, or maybe do a whole fret job. But let's see how the setup works, and if there's no string buzz and the action's nice and low and playable, then probably can get another year or two out of these frets before having to think about replacing them. Strings provided by the customer. I like to feed them through one at a time. I don't have a special stand or anything, or the neck, the headstock and the neck, is just sort of resting on my regular neck stand, my Dunlop neck stand. So if you don't, jiggle the guitar around too much, it stands on the side like that, so it works out pretty well. I can also use my bench vise for this, but it works out, in this case, especially because it's the Lefty, it worked out well. So here I just flip the guitar around because it'll be a little easier for me to work on. Maybe that's cheating a bit, I don't know. So the low E string, you can, general terms, you want to have enough string. So if you use the tuners, you can go 2 to 3 tuners past the E string, the tuning machine you're trying to string up. Or you can, measure 2 inches or something like that. But it all depends on how tall the tuning post is. If you have a short tuning post, and I've run into that a few times, you really have to cut the string off maybe 1 tuner, 1.5 tuners past the tuning post. Otherwise you just have way too much wrapping around there. So I did the rest of them off camera, of course. I'll just finish up here with the driver. And I like to make sure that they're all seated properly, they're stacked nicely, and I pull the string ends tight. That just helps with tuning right down the road. Give the strings a little stretch, especially the wound ones. Tune up. Check the string height now. So I'd like to loosen things, of course, when you raise the strings. Creates undue tension on the string, and you could strip out the saddle screw, forcing it too much. So I'm going to try and get this action as low as possible, around 4/64. So now, it's the next day. I'm going to check the neck. You can see that it needs some relief. The 10's just sliding under there. Again, we like to see 12 thousandths. You can get by with 10 if there's no fret issues and the neck's good. I'm going to loosen that up a bit. Another little turn. Getting there. So between 10 and 12 thousandths, so that's pretty good. So nut action, it's good at both sides. Between 18 and 22 thousandths is good for an electric guitar. Can be lower, but you could risk some open string buzzing. Again, depends on the neck, depends on the frets. Didn't do anything with the tremolo springs because it's pinned to the deck and there's no trem arm. So this is effectively a hardtail. Can't remember if we only had 5 screws when it came in or 6, but I have extra screws, so. I'd have to look back on the video. I'm just going to check the intonation now. Remember, I did move the saddles around a bit, the E and the A. Turns out the high E and the B string were a little flat, so that I had to move the saddles forward a bit. But other than that, the intonation was pretty good. So I'll finish up by checking the pickup height. I like to see 1/8 of an inch between the pickup pole, or the top of the pickup, and the bottom of the string. That's when you fret on the last fret. And then on the, I like to see 1/8 on the bass side. Lefty guitar flipped me around there. 1/8 on the bass side, 3/32 on the treble side. So that's it. Just clean up the bench. Job finished. Thanks for watching again. Please like and subscribe. That'll keep me making these videos. I'm enjoying myself tremendously, and I hope you find the information, somewhat valuable and help you with your guitar repair voyage. Bye for now.